Hello, friends. Welcome back to For the Plot. This is episode 2, and I just want to say if you haven't yet, please subscribe, please give it a rating, please share it with people that you think will enjoy it. Before we dive in, I got some interesting feedback and insights and input from last week. So I received a message with some inside intel from someone who attended ScotiaCon at the weekend, which is the furry convention that takes place in Glasgow. And the review from this person was that it was very wholesome, like a freshers' fair where everyone is likely queer and has no shit takes on gender, very disability representative. There were people there from all over the world. For example, they had a really great conversation with someone from Singapore. The program was full of workshops and panels. Lots of people were appreciating and sharing artwork and collaborating and communicating about how they'd built their suits. And there were particular subcultures within the community. And this person is kind of on the periphery, shall we say, of the furry community, but they're an artist. And so a really wholesome moment for them was that they got recognized for their art, which sounds really cool. They did tell me as well that there was a proper DJ every night, and it felt like this crossover of furry culture and rave culture. And again, I think I said this last week, but I just think it's so impressive if you can dance and you can party in one of these suits. And they said to me after they sent me these messages, anyway, that's my thoughts dredged up from a pint in the Crown Plaza Hotel as I watch multicolored husky wolves walk by, surrounded by Magic the Gathering players. So thank you so much for the little insight into ScotiaCon. And of course, I know a lot of you really enjoyed the reviews because so many people sent me fucking unhinged reviews from places that you've been. And I really thought about dedicating a bit of time to reviews in these episodes, but I think I'm just gonna like sprinkle them in here and there. This week, I definitely do have to quickly take you on a detour to some more review lore. And I think it's one of the things that started my original interest in reviews, especially these kind of like, I don't know, these really negative reviews that people then take too far and find funny. So I want to share this very famous review with you, and it's titled Very Steep and Too High. And it's about Ben Nevis, which is the highest mountain in Scotland, actually, the highest mountain in the UK. And it's from an American couple. Let me read it to you. 1 star. This was almost a full day's climbing, and my girlfriend was crying at one point. When we did get to the top, there was nothing there. Mount Snowdon has a pub, restaurant, and toilets at its top. Well, very fucking good for Mount Snowdon. Luckily, we'd brought some sandwiches and drinks, so anyone else climbing this one, be warned, there are no facilities at the top. The climb basically went on for far too long, and the last part was particularly steep and difficult. It was also cloudy at the top, so the view was non existent. The long walk back down was boring and again took too long. So there's this second negative review. this one's this one's ridiculous. 1 star. Well, where should I start? Firstly, there was no direct path all the way up. So many rocks and not accessible for the mobility scooter. Fair, it's not disability friendly, this mountain. Secondly, there were no shops or cafes on the way up. Took me 8 hours, and I was promised by one of the tour guides that there was going to be a KFC at the summit. But to my disappointment, there was no such thing there. So, a very important part of Scottish humour and culture is roasting. And roasting basically means making fun of someone or something. And Scottish people are wind up merchants. They love to wind other people up. So I'm just going to read you some of the reviews that Scottish people left for Ben Nevis after these two negative reviews. 1 star. Me nan almost flew off her mobility scooter. Rocks too uneasy and unreasonable. No KFC at the summit was a bit disappointing. Don't recommend. And this one. 1 star. Was far too windy. Every time I stopped to roll a cigarette, the paper would blow out my hands and my backy would go everywhere. Far too steep for my liking. There's no elevator or buses to the top. Had to get my dad to carry me all the way up to the top on his shoulders. 1 star. 1 star. Bit tall. Would be better if it was just on the ground. Scottish people are so unserious. So yeah, if you see any funny reviews that you would like to share with me, I'm so open to seeing them. I absolutely love to read reviews like this. Last week, A week of actually a fairly calm week, not too many side quests. A very short and silly thing I observed yesterday when I was cycling down a street in my neighborhood. I cycled past a record store. Oh my God, Jesus Christ, you can tell I was exported from the UK a long time ago. Oh my, on about record store. A shop, a record shop, as in a shop that sells vinyls. So there was this record shop, and it was it was called Wowsville. It's just like my exact humor. So then for the rest of my cycle, I had this bit just going in my head like, oh yeah, one-way ticket to Wowsville. Yeah, he's amazing. He's the mayor of Wowsville. Or all aboard, next stop, Wowsville. Just such a funny name for a record shop. But then on the same street, just like 150 meters down, and then on the opposite side of the road, there's a pizza place that's called Villa Wow. So I really need to get to the bottom of what the obsession with villas and wows is on that particular street. One thing that I did do last week was help a friend with some shopping. So I have a friend who is chronically ill and she needs some support with day-to-day tasks like shopping. What I was actually supposed to do was pick up her medicine from the vet, and I'd cleared my schedule. I planned to go there in the morning, and then when I woke up in the morning, she texted me like, "Oh, by the way, you know the vet isn't open today." So great fucking support network I am. But what I did help with was some shopping. So I went to Rossmann, which is kind of like I don't know, like a chemist, we would call it in the UK, like a drugstore, um, where you can buy toiletries, makeup, just also like random bits and bobs, right? So she gave me the shopping list. And on the shopping list was nail scissors, cat litter, and face masks. So the context is my friend is going into this rehab clinic and she needs to, well, she wants to do face masks every day, right? Like she wants to treat herself while she's there. And so what that meant was I had to buy like 40 face masks. So I basically cleared out this shop of face masks and I put everything on the conveyor belt at the checkout. And it was really giving like crazy cat lady who doesn't want to leave the house, which to be fair, she is. Like that's what she is. And as the woman was scanning the face mask, instead of doing that thing that they usually do at the checkout where it would be like, take the item that you have a lot of, count them, and then put it through, she scanned every single face mask individually. So it was like boop, boop, boop. And she was looking at me, like looking up, making eye contact, then looking back at the face mask and looking up as she was scanning them through the checkout. And I had this like burning urge to somehow defend myself, but in the end, I just like smiled at her and held her gaze. Later in the weekend, I had a very cozy evening with my friend AC, who celebrated her birthday last week, actually. And so we planned this kind of very cozy date night. Was going to go round to her place, and we would literally just like hang out, unstructured hang. And so we went round, we ordered some food. It was very chilled, very cozy. And one of the gifts that we gave her for her birthday was this incredible lamp. I have one as well. Like it actually changed my life, and it's colorful and it makes this kind of like shimmer pattern on the wall. And we're saying, wow, yeah, this lamp is really life changing. She said, yeah, you know, I also love my lava lamp. And I'm a big fan of a lava lamp. I had a lava lamp as a kid. And I said to her, yeah, you know, I would love a lava lamp. I always dreamed of having one of those floor to ceiling lava lamps. And she was like, what? Can you get a floor to ceiling lava lamp? I was like, yeah. Give me a second. Give me a second. So I'm like checking my phone and then I show her the picture. She's like, sorry, this is your reference. And it's a reference to Shark Tale, the animated film. And it's at this particular moment in the film where Oscar the fish has basically like upgraded his lifestyle and he moves into this apartment and has like a floor to ceiling lava lamp. And oh my God, I wanted this so much as a kid. I thought it was like the pinnacle of wealth. And so I showed this picture of Shark Tale to AC and she was like, this is your design reference. So yeah, if anyone knows of somewhere where you can actually get a floor to ceiling lava lamp, I'm very interested in investing in one. Something else that we were doing, we were listening to this playlist that I have got called Wet Bops. And the Wet Bops playlist is basically This is very specific music from like the 90s and 2000s that it's like somehow upbeat but also heartbroken. So you've got things in there like Dreams by Gabrielle. You've got I think there's a lot of like Alanis Morissette. There's a lot of the chorus, this kind of thing. And there's a song in there by Lean Marlin called Sitting Down Here. And we were listening to it, and AC was telling me, when you listen to this stuff when you're younger, like before you speak English, and if you're not a native English speaker, you have no idea what they're saying. And I was just reassuring her, like, actually, in a lot of these songs, like, especially in the 90s and 2000s, I also don't really know what they're saying. Because I feel like there was this trend where people would write the lyrics and people would write the melody and then they would try and smush them together. Like, there's such disrespect for syllables and the amount of time that syllables need to be sung. And so, yeah, this song by Lean Marlin is a perfect example. The lyrics go, I'm sitting down here, but hey, you can't see me. Kind of invisible. You don't sense my stay. And first off, those lyrics don't even fucking make sense. Like, it doesn't really mean anything. They've just been crammed in. But then the way it actually sounds in the song is like, I'm sitting down here, but hey, you can't see me. Kind of invisible, you don't sense my stay. It's like, how are you supposed to understand that those are the lyrics? There's like no reason for you to be putting the emphasis on those parts of the words. And so then we were listening to other songs in the playlist and like then branched broader into like the 2000s and 2010s. And we really realized this is like a running theme. And I think my favorite song, which completely disrespects where the emphasis should be in words, is 7 Days by Craig David. Because it has, I mean, there's so many examples throughout the song, but like just a little snippet so you get what I mean. There's this section of the lyrics. She said she'd love to rendezvous. She asked me what we were going to do. I said we'd start with a bottle of Moe for two Monday. And he goes like straight on into the chorus. But oh my God, am I actually going to do this? Yeah. So what it actually sounds like when he sings it. He goes, she said she'd love to rendezvous. She asked me what we were gonna do. Said start with a bottle of Moe for to Monday. And there's like no way that if you're not a native English speaker, you could pick up what he's saying. It makes no fucking sense for the emphasis to be like that. So yeah, that was a cozy evening that we had at the weekend. And the next day, I went to meet some friends in a vegan bakery in Mitte called The Sanctuary, which, by the way, I'm just going to shout them out. It's one of the best vegan bakeries in Berlin. They do incredible Italian patisserie. So I arrived a little bit early because I have like chronic early syndrome. I'm so early for everything. I arrived early and I texted my friend, hey, I've just arrived a little bit early. I've taken a seat at the back. She said, 10 minutes late. Said, absolutely no problem. I'm just going to try and restrain myself so I don't eat four pastries before you arrive. And then it gets to like 15 minutes late. I'm like, okay, maybe they just got stuck somewhere. It's not 10 minutes. And then 20 minutes. And then I was like, I think something's wrong. Now, where I was sitting in this place, I had no signal. So I was like, okay, let me just go and check my phone and I'll give her a call. And I go out to the front and I have this string of messages being like, we're here. Where are you? Where are you actually? Can't see you. Oh, maybe you're at the sanctuary. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, yeah, of course I'm at the sanctuary. That's where we're meeting, you dumb fuck. And then she'd screenshotted earlier in the conversation. I'd actually like suggested, I'd even written it out. I'd like suggested a completely different bakery around the corner and I'd sent the Google Maps link. And then the day before, I'd just been like, oh, see you at the sanctuary. It was just so confusing. This is like very bad communication from my part. Anyway, they had managed to work it out because there's a high density of vegan bakeries in this particular part of Berlin, but they figured it out. They came to meet me and we sat and we enjoyed our vegan pastries together and hot chocolate and several cups of tea. But I do love this place, the sanctuary, but they don't have a toilet. And at some point, I thought, okay, it's time for me to go, but also I kind of need to pee a little bit. So got back on my bike, started cycling home. And then I got to a park near where I live and it was still really icy on the ground. And I had to get off my bike and walk because I thought this, like, I don't want to fall off my bike on the ice. And I was kind of like hunched over, like bent over, walking forwards. You know, that way when you like really, really need to pee. And I was like, fuck, I don't know if I can make it home. Now, out the other side of the park, there's a public toilet. And so I went to the public toilet, but it was also betrieb, like, it was not working and the door wouldn't open. It's also, like, not the nicest place to pee, just for anyone who is Berlin-based. It's, like, the public toilet at the other side of Görlitzer Park, right? That's where this is how desperate I was. I was planning to go in there. But then I actually only live 5 minutes from there by bikes. "No, you can do this." So I got back on my bike and I was, like, using my saddle almost as, like, a cork, as, like, a stopper to stop myself from needing to pee. Cycled home, locked my bike, got into the apartment. When I got into the apartment, my roommate was in the shower. Like, "Oh my god, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know how to deal with this." And I was really like, we're in, like, danger zone, danger territory. I also kind of can't believe that I'm telling you this story, but whatever. We started now. So my bedroom has a balcony. And so I, like, ran through to the balcony and I knew I had an empty ceramic plant pot on the balcony. So I took the plant pot inside, pulled the curtains shut, and I peed in this plant pot. Oh my god. And then basically filled it up and then tipped it out over the soil on another plant pot that I have in the balcony. And when you just have these moments where you're like, that was so fucking undignified. I am an adult. How did I let it get to that point? Because I sent my friends to the wrong bakery, I wanted to tell a few stories on this theme of miscommunication and missed connections. So the first one, a dear friend of mine and I, we're going to call him Stan. This is actually the name he's chosen for this particular context. Stan and I had been going to these dance classes together for a couple of weeks. We've been going to this house dance class. And we've been enjoying it, having a lot of fun. And then there was one week where I wasn't going to be able to make the house class, but after the house class is an Afro dance class. And so we decided we were going to go to the Afro class. And I was working late. And then I texted Stan, "Hey, are we still going to go to Afro tonight?" And he didn't reply. Thought, okay, kind of weird, but I'm just going to go to the dance studio anyway. I'll see him there and then we go into the class. By the time I got to the dance studio, I was so tired from work and I had like no energy left in my body. I was like, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to do this class. And I arrived and the dance class was taking place downstairs in this dance studio. So I go down the stairs and I was looking for Stan. And one thing you need to know about Stan, he is a very large, very beautiful man. He's incredibly difficult to miss. And I was looking around and I couldn't see him anywhere. And I was like, oh, well, he didn't reply. I can't see him here. Maybe he's not here. So I went to sit outside. I waited for 5 minutes and then it was like 1 minute before the class was going to start. And I was like, do you know what? If he's not coming, I actually am just going to go home and chill the fuck out. So that's what I did. I got back on my bike and I cycled back home. And when I got home, I checked my phone and he texted me, "Where are you?" It's me and like 20, 16-year-old girls. I feel like a creep. And oh my goodness, people, I felt so bad because I know exactly the vibe. I know exactly the sort of 16-year-old girl that is going to that class. And he said in a voice note later on that he felt like a dad at a sleepover. And basically, what had happened was he had gone to the class that we usually go to, which happens before. He'd been dancing. You have no signal in there. He couldn't check his phone, so he didn't text back. And then he wasn't sure where the class was happening. So then by the time he actually figured out where it was and was downstairs, I wasn't there. He was already in the class, maybe thinking that I was going to be late. So we just had this like miscommunication and missed connection. And honestly, that would be my worst nightmare if I was like this big dude in my 30s in an Afro dance class with all these twerking 16-year-olds. Fuck. So the second story I want to tell you about is not necessarily a missed connection, but it's generally on this theme. So there's this like Berlin meme account, Berlin Ausländer memes, and they do this thing every week, which I actually think is so cool, called missed connections, where you can basically text someone that you maybe saw or met in a club or met somewhere and you didn't get their contact details. And it's like there could have been a connection, but you didn't. You get a lot of people writing about, yeah, people that they met at parties and they didn't exchange contact details. You get people that kind of like saw each other in the supermarket and they had an interaction, but then they didn't actually follow up on it. And I've thought quite a few times about writing to them because I had an experience last summer with, yeah, I guess with someone who I would kind of like to reach back out to or get in contact with again. We went to a party in a club. It's like a club with an outdoor space. It's actually mostly outdoors. And really good vibes, sunny day, very good energy. At some point when I'm dancing, I see this absolutely beautiful woman dancing at the front of the crowd. And I turned to my friend and I was like, oh my God, look at this beautiful woman. My friend was like, oh, you should go and dance with her. Okay. I'm going to go and dance with her. And I did. So I moved to the front and I started dancing next to her. And she turned around to me and at some point she said, oh, what's your name? And we started having like this kind of like superficial dance floor small talk, and we were dancing, and then at some point we started making out, and it was very cute, except I felt incredibly perceived because this was not in a queer space necessarily. And so I kind of stopped feeling very comfortable. We went back to dancing, and then I decided, no, actually, I just want to go and dance with my friends. So I went to dance with my friends. We found each other a couple more times over the course of the party. And then when we were leaving, I saw her again, and she was also with her group of friends, and she was also leaving. Now, I think important context that you need for this, most Sundays, but at least every second Sunday, I have phone-free Sunday, and this party was on a Sunday. And so I didn't actually have my phone on me. And I thought, oh, actually, I want to take her contact details. Or I want to give her my contact details. And so I go over to her, and instead of me being like, hey, can I put my number in your phone? I reached into my bum bag, which I always have when I'm partying, and I pulled out the only thing that I had with me. I had my wallet and I had my Sudoku book. And I ripped a page out of my Sudoku book and wrote my number on it. My God. And gave it to her. Said, hey, you should text me. Oh, I'm cringing so much. And yeah, so I gave her my number. We said goodbye. And then she never texted me. I mean, I don't know why. If someone ripped a page out of their Sudoku book and gave me their number on it, I would be texting them instantly. But yeah, I guess we're a bit different on that front. So I haven't reached out to Berlin Auslander memes to get in touch with her because I do know her name, or I think I know her name, and we could probably track her down. But yeah, I don't know if I'm ready to know why she didn't reach back out to me. Final little story on missed connections. When I was back in Glasgow in December, I met up with a childhood friend, a very dear friend of mine called Grace. And Grace and I we had a very tight knit group with two other friends. And we kind of lost touch with one of them. I kind of understand because he had like a really rough time where we grew up. He's queer. And I think when he moved away, he was just like, no, fuck this. I'm done with this, whatever. Yeah, we just kind of lost touch. That one's okay. And then our other friend, we also kind of lost touch with, but he was also a little bit more difficult to track down or like see what he's up to. He's social media free. We just didn't really know where he was or what he was doing, but we did know we did know where his family home was. It's still in the same place, we think, right? And so when we met, we went for a walk, and then we were like, maybe we should knock on this person's door and see if he wants to come out to play like we were kids again. We knocked on the door, nobody was in. And we thought, okay, let's put a note through the door to get him to get in touch with us. So we wrote a note. We were here. We would love to get back in touch with you. Put it through the door. And we have not heard anything, unfortunately. But what we did learn is where he's now living and working. And we think that our next tactic to get in touch with him will be through LinkedIn. This week's lore is actually related to Grace, my childhood friend that I was just telling you about that we wrote the note. So when Grace and I met up at Christmas time, I was asking, how are you? What's going on? She said, yeah, I'm good. I'm actually living in a castle now. What? What do you mean you're living in a castle? I said, yeah, well, my partner, he had a studio in this place, and it's basically like a stately home. And yeah, now we've moved into a wing of the castle and we're kind of guardians of that part of the building. So yeah, we don't pay rent. It's really fucking cold. It's hard to heat it, but hey, we live in a castle. And I was like, what the fuck? This is so cool that you're just like living rent free in this stately home castle vibe. And it really got me thinking about all of these kind of these kind of places where you can exchange your time or your work or your guardianship for staying in the place. And I decided to do a little bit of research to share some of these potential opportunities with you. So I was looking on places like Workaway, volunteering, house sitting. I also found like a bunch of random wildlife reserve websites. So this is a curation of the ones that I think sound the most interesting. First opportunity, Isle of Owskerry in Scotland. So it's a remote island in eastern Orkney, right in the north of Scotland. And right now, the family who lives there, they're looking for a couple to live on the island, to maintain the buildings and infrastructure, and to look after the sheep from April 2026. This is like a live and possible opportunity. You could move to this island on Scotland and just vibe and live with the sheep. The next one that I found, you can become a horse ranch caretaker near Reykjavik in Iceland. And the job description, as it were, help care for the horses on a ranch. The accommodation, your private room, meals, and transfers from Reykjavik are included. So you can basically go and like work on this ranch, look after the horses, and just live near Reykjavik for free, which I think is so cool as well. Then, going on the castle vibe, I found a medieval castle in the south of France where they're basically trying to stick to the traditional techniques and restore parts of the castle. So you'd be living in the castle and then helping with this restoration project, basically. Another amazing one that I found, for those of you that like your cats, on Vis Island in Croatia, you could become an island cat caretaker. So your responsibilities would include caring for the cat sanctuary and helping with permaculture prep on the rural island property. So they describe it as a nature-centric experience. I'm going to put all of the links to those on the Patreon. For those of you that don't know about the Patreon, it's the space where I'm sharing slightly juicier and spicier side quests that I go on. But it's also a space where you're more than welcome to send me feedback, input, and I will just share kind of random things from the podcast there. And so when I saw all of these jobs and the places that you could go and live, it reminded me of let's call it a missed opportunity or something. Like I would say I'm not someone that has a lot of regrets, but this is one of them. I don't even know when it was. I think it was when I was still living in the UK. So we're talking like more than 5 or 6 years ago. There was an advert that I saw from Kent Wildlife Trust, and they were starting this new biodiversity project in Kent. And what they were doing was basically trying to reintroduce species to the UK. So there were some birds, there were some bugs. One thing they were also doing to promote biodiversity was reintroducing bison, like the big cows. I don't even know how else to describe bison, like wildebeest. And I remember seeing a job description for a bison ranger. And when I say I think fairly often about what my life would look like if I had become a bison ranger, I feel like it's very on brand. You're like waking up in the morning on the wildlife reserve, you've got to go out to the paddock, you've got to feed the bison, you've got to open their gate into the field so they can run around, you've got to make sure that they're like rubbing their horns against the trees properly, that they're inviting the right bird species. I just thought that sounded like an absolute dream job. And I'm pretty gutted that I passed up on the opportunity to become a bison ranger. So now what I'm basically doing is like keeping an eye on similar opportunities, even if they're volunteering in Germany. Because when I first moved here, I was riding my bike a lot around Berlin. There was nothing else to do. It was like lockdown and you couldn't hang out with anyone. And I discovered on the outskirts of Berlin, we also have these water bison, the water buffalo. So very similar to bison, same kind of project trying to promote biodiversity. So if anyone hears of any opportunities to become any kind of ranger for these big fuck off cows, I will accept jobs with wildebeest, with water buffalo, with bison, with ox, like possibly even cows. I'd be happy to be herding cows. If you hear of anything, please let me know. Thank you for listening to another episode of For the Plot. Please subscribe, please like it, please rate it, please share it with friends that you think will enjoy it, and I will see you next week.